I was in the Winona Ryder camp, and the Angelina Jolie camp was really cool.
Did you secretly want to be in the Angelina Jolie camp?
I was so intimidated by the Angelina Jolie camp. I had no thoughts of ever being able to be in that camp. Like, it was so cool.
Somebody gonna cue me, or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay. We're back with another episode of season 2, everyone, of Let's Talk Off Camera. So let's get talking. Today we're talking with the queen of the silver screen, Elisabeth Moss.
Wow.
Woohoo!
That's a good one.
Big one.
I mean, Jan, Albert, what is going on with you two?
Albert has something that's going to cheer you up because he's got a gift for you. We're making it a gift.
Jan, we're rolling, right?
Yeah,
We've been rolling.
I haven't told you this, which is mind-boggling to me. But Alex, who you know, Alex, my friend Alex, his like best friend Lavanya, who he's known forever, years ago bought from an estate sale of a celebrity their personal bar cart that was in their said.
It's going to be yours.
That was in said home.
I've decided.
And was in her home, and we all worshipped at said bar cart.
Okay.
And a couple months ago, she reached out to Alex and said, "Tell Albert that I would like to offer him the bar cart if he wants the bar cart."
Therefore, yours.
So it's now in my. It has been transported.
Our bar cart.
It's in my garage, and said bar cart was owned by the.
Wait, play a guessing game.
You're gonna have to give me.
Oh yeah, I'm going to give you.
give
This
clues,
person
give clues.
is a actress who you have worked with. She is who has obviously since passed. Who you've?
Why is it obvious she's?
Well, she's her estate sale. It was an estate
I
sale.
worked with
No,
her.
it was her estate sale.
Every actor I ever worked
It was
with
an
has passed
estate
away.
sale. It was an estate sale.
Okay.
Her character was one of the most adored characters on one of the most adored sitcoms.
Rue McClanahan.
Yes! Oh my God! How did you do that?
I almost
the
said.
fuck did you do that?
I almost began with Rue McClanahan before you said, when you were like, you know this actress, and I was like, Rue McClanahan.
How did you do that?
You own her bar cart now.
Oh my God, where are we putting it? Where are we putting Rue McClanahan?
I don't know. It's in my garage. It's a TBD of where it's going.
You're putting it. It's
No, for now, until we figure it out. We have to.
Kelly,
It should be in the bedroom.
Okay, she's ready.
You know, I'm going to get into this with her, but this girl cannot lose. She's a winner. She's a winner, chicken dinner. 2-time Emmy winner, 2-time Golden Globe winner, 2-time SAG Award winner. You ever win any of those, Jan?
Nope.
How about you, Seth? How about you, Al?
Zilch.
Yep. Me, 3. 4. That's 4. Or 4. And I can't count.
You've won an Emmy.
Prime time.
I've not won a primetime.
Oh, primetime.
I've won several
Several,
daytime Emmys.
yes.
And I've won a news Emmy.
Oh.
A special class Emmy for CNN Heroes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that counts as, but I like to consider that primetime
It is.
since
I
it
think
is.
You're a winner.
That's prime time.
You're a winner.
Yeah.
You're winning.
But I'm not winning like this girl. Okay? You may know her from Mad Men or The Handmaid's Tale. Perhaps you know her from The West Wing, just to name a handful of shows. She's booking shows as this podcast is literally news is breaking about shows she's set to star in as we are reading her intro. You can see her now in the new FX show, The Veil. Let's say hi to her.
Hi.
Hi. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I am so happy and excited for you. You announced that you're pregnant on Jimmy Kimmel in January.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
I wish you had saved it for this podcast. So far, we only have Roz, who has announced her pregnancy on this here
Yes.
podcast.
Yeah, Rob.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
that's right.
Roz is also-
Congratulations.
So how are you feeling?
Good. I've been honestly really lucky. I've been very fortunate in having a pretty good time,
Yeah.
which I hesitate a little to say because I know how difficult it can be, you know. But I've been fortunate in that way, and everything is good and healthy and moving along nicely, and that's all you can ask for. So
Amazing. So I'm so happy for you.
Thank
And
you. Thank
do
you.
you have like weird, because I've had 3 pregnancies, one that was bizarre food cravings, one that was food aversions,
yeah.
and then I had the 3rd pregnancy where I didn't know I was pregnant until I was almost 20 weeks pregnant. And that was, we call him the flu because I thought he was the flu for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I'm like, I just can't shake this flu.
20 weeks.
Well,
Wow.
I had a baby and I was still nursing her, and I
Oh, okay.
did not, you know.
So there was other stuff going on.
Yeah, there
and
was other people
yeah.
were like, "Didn't you realize that you were gaining weight?" And I was like, "I hadn't lost any weight."
Right.
So you're asking a lot of me to process. I
Totally.
was still
I
in
get that.
maternity clothes from the baby, so it didn't occur to me that I was gaining weight.
And you have hormones still from the baby. So you're like, yeah, I get it.
right.
I get it. I have definitely both. I have cravings, but not honestly. I just want sugar. Like not so much cravings like peanut butters on pickles or something like that. Although that does sound good right now, but but more I want sugar. Aversions for sure. And the aversions are really specific. Like I was eating eggs every day and I was totally fine until one morning it was like, these are going to kill me. Like
all eggs must be destroyed.
There must be no eggs within like a 5-mile radius. Like it's so extreme.
I remember when I developed an aversion for smells, and so the smell of coffee, the smell of Mark, my beloved husband, the smell of Mark, who is like one of my favorite smells. Like he always smells good. He smells like very clean. Like he's a non-offensive smelling person.
Yeah.
But suddenly I could not. If we had to go somewhere, we had to take a separate taxi cab. Because I was like, I can't be in a cab with you and that smell, that smell of your head.
that smell of you.
Yeah. And I wound up
guy.
like moving to the sofa. Like I
Yeah. I have a heightened sense of smell for sure. There's not really a lot that I am like disgusted by specifically, but it's just a heightened sense. Like if somebody's wearing perfume or anything, it's very strong for me kind of thing.
Yeah. I felt bad for Roz because she didn't tell me for a long time that she was pregnant. And I was in here perfumed up and lotion. I was putting lotions on. So, all right, let's move on. Let's talk about what a winner you are. You win everything you're nominated for. As a matter of fact, I often feel sorry. I do. I'm not going to lie. When I see, and the nominees are, and then you see Elisabeth Moss, you see the other actresses, they're like, well, they fold up their speeches, they put them in their purse.
That is not true. That is very nice, but not true.
Of all of your iconic roles, there's, of course, Mad Men. There's that incredible documentary called The Handmaid's Tale. I no longer call it I don't call it a television series anymore. I call it a docu-series now.
That's fair.
You've got this new FX show, The Veil. And as we were logging on, news just broke that you've got a new, is it Apple series with Kerry Washington?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't make any bombs, right? No flops. You haven't been in a show that's been a clunker.
Knock on wood. I mean, I think things have done pretty well, I guess. But I can't actually say that out loud or I will seriously jinx myself. So you can say that, but I cannot say that.
So do you watch the things you're in, or are you an actor that can't watch yourself? You can't bear to watch?
No, I've always been fine with it. I've always been fine with watching myself. I grew up dancing. So, you're always looking at yourself in the mirror constantly. Every class, every minute, you're looking at yourself in the mirror. So I have nothing on looking. I've seen everything. I know all the faces I make. I can make the worst face and I have no problem with it. Like I know every pore of my skin at this point. So I have no issue with it. And as a producer, because now I'm producing most of the stuff that I do and then sometimes directing. So I end up having to watch things a lot.
By the way, Jan, Elisabeth Moss, ballet prodigy.
I know. Well, you did ballet as well.
I did ballet as well, but the LA Times never called me a ballet prodigy. As a matter of fact, Diane Hull was like, "Get out of my class."
But what does that mean? Like how?
Yeah, what level of dance were you?
I trained up until I was 15. So I did like the whole going to the School of American Ballet thing. And I wanted to go to New York City Ballet. And,
That's the real deal.
Yeah. Like I trained with Suzanne Farrell. So I got like right up to the point where you decide whether or not you're going to actually go for it, and you're going to really make this your career, and decided to do acting exclusively instead.
I'm so glad you did. When Darren Aronofsky was casting The Black Swan. Were you up for that role?
No, no, I'm pretty sure Natalie had that on lockdown. As she should have.
I would have been seeking out all of the classically trained, because there's a handful of actors that are classically trained ballet dancers.
Totally.
A
I remember.
handful.
Do you remember that movie Center Stage?
Of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Oh my gosh.
I definitely wanted. I think did I audition for that movie?
I bet you did.
No, I didn't audition for the lead. I was another role. And who got that part? I blocked it from my mind. It was so painful. But I did audition for it.
Do you still practice ballet?
No, I wish. Isn't that the dumbest thing ever? I think it's the dumbest thing ever that I didn't keep dancing, because it's such incredible exercise. I've always intended to go back to it at some point. I've always intended to get back into class. As you know, I live in New York. I do not live far from a couple of fantastic studios. Mm-hmm. So I've always wanted to get back into it because I love it. And then also, the exercise is amazing. The exercise. It's just.
I'm telling you, best. I still take ballet class, and
you do.
Yes, and the older I get, the more essential it becomes, because you're still young, but your bones want to turn to dust.
This podcast has become horrifying.
No, this is the real Handmaid's Tale. So I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Growing up, were you the cool kid?
No, definitely not. No, I was into ballet. I think I was cool. Now, especially looking back, I'm like, oh, you were actually cool. But when I was 12 years old, I could name every single Gershwin tune. I was familiar with all of the jazz greats. I was very familiar with classical music. I could not tell you who Nirvana was. I could not tell you who Oasis was. These people that were big at the time, I did not know. So in that framework, I was not cool. But me looking back, I'm like, yeah, I was a super cool kid.
You would have made a great gay man.
Yes. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
It's true. So do you remember your first acting job? What made you want to pivot away from ballet and go into acting? Because they are very similar. There's a lot of acting in ballet.
Totally. My first acting job that I remember, although I don't know if it was my first one, I probably did a commercial or something, but my first acting job that I remember was a Lifetime movie based on I think a Daniel Steele novel or something, and it was called Lucky Chances. And probably not Daniel Steele, I'm probably getting it wrong, but Sandra Bullock played my mom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I don't remember being with her, but I do remember I had to find her dead in the pool. And I was 6 years old.
Hey, Albert's looking it up right now. He's finding it. He's going to find it.
Can you look it up?
Yeah, I am looking
it up. Lucky Chances. It's called Lucky Chances. And I was in love. I just thought it was so fun, and I loved acting. And then what made me decide I had a really kind of grown-up conversation with my mom when I was 15. Now that I'm 41 now, so now it feels like, oh my God, thank God.
Are you 41? You look like you're 30 years old. You have a baby face.
You're very kind. I'll take it. You're very kind.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so Albert, Lucky Chances. Here we go. Okay. Based on the novel Chances and Lucky by Jackie Collins, the miniseries features the rise of Gino Santangelo in the Las Vegas casino industry and his daughter Lucky's subsequent struggle to maintain the family empire.
Ooh.
And if you scroll down, she's in the cast, but you got to go, I can do it.
Am I in it?
Yes.
Yeah, you're in it.
Sandra Bullock, you're right.
This all checks out.
This all checks out. You're not lying to us.
No,
how embarrassing would that be?
There's a lot of people. It's a miniseries.
Nicolette Sheridan. What?
Wow.
Eddie
it was
Lucci,
a miniseries?
Susan's
it says it was a miniseries. It says.
Oh, how many episodes?
We have to go back to the top. Kelly's got my laptop.
It's got one season. You were 6 years old.
Wow.
I was very little. I'm so glad my story checks out. It would be so weird if I was spreading this weird lie about having been in this show with Sandra Bullock. Never happened.
Oh, Vincent Irizarry. I know Vincent Irizarry, who played Gino Santangelo. We worked on All My Children together.
No way.
Yes. Oh my
He sounds like
We
he
gotta
was
watch-
the
we gotta
lead
get a
of
copy.
it.
Yes, he was at first. He's first on the cast list.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, he must have been drunk with power. So you've been employed basically your entire life. Was there ever a time of unemployment? Did you ever have like an odd job or two?
I had one real job in LA. I worked at the Silent Movie Theater. It used to be called the Silent Movie Theater. It's called something else now. But I was pretty fortunate in the sense that I didn't have to go get a real job, which was good because I didn't have any other skills. I didn't go to college. The time of unemployment that I really kind of had when I was, out of my parents' house and living on my own in New York, I had already been on the West Wing. Right. So I was kind of like an in-between area of like, how do you go get a waitressing job when you technically are kind of recognizable and people know who you are?
Okay.
So it's in the middle, you know what I mean?
Right. So how old were you when you were on the West Wing? Do you recall?
17. I started on the West Wing when I was 17.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question.
Okay.
This is very funny. I just interviewed Rob Lowe for Rob Lowe's podcast. Basically, Rob Lowe was supposed to interview me, but I had so many questions for Rob Lowe that basically, I don't think he got a question out.
Barely.
It may have been like, "How are you?" And that was where I took over the interview because I had a lot of questions. So, as a 17-year-old Elisabeth Moss, was Rob Lowe on the seasons you were on? And did you have a concept? Because when I was 17, Rob Lowe was the shit.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, he still is like looking into the sun. So you're a 17-year-old girl and you're showing up and there's Rob Lowe. Are you like,
I mean, it's hard not to be because he's Rob Lowe.
Right.
But at the same time, I was so nervous
that
I wasn't really in that headspace at all. I was 17 and doing Aaron Sorkin's dialogue, which is so quick and there's so much of it and it's, hard to learn and it has to be so fast. It was an incredible opportunity for me. And I've got, Bradley Whitford and Allison Janney and Rob Lowe and Martin Sheen. And there's all these people that are just like the most incredible actors. And so I was just nervous more than anything else. Eventually I got more relaxed, but I was more just like, I didn't have a lot with Rob either. My stuff was mainly with Martin or Dulé Hill. They were all so nice to me, of course. They were so nice, but I was more just like the kid who came in and did an episode every once in a while. And was totally intimidated by all these people that I was working with.
Yeah, it's hard when you're like on a show once in a while because you never really get that. You always feel like the transfer student, the student coming into the class, and everybody knows what that joke means except for me.
Yeah, and they're doing like 24 episodes a year together, and they have a whole rhythm and they have a whole thing. And I'm like a kid as well. I was a kid, but Rob was definitely like, he's like a movie star. So I was intimidated by that. Like he, was a big, iconic movie star.
It's so funny. I'm like reading your notes, and I was so focused on interviewing Rob Lowe about why I wasn't invited to his birthday party. I was like, why?
Oh, so you had like personal questions.
I had questions.
She came in hot.
I came in hot. I came in very hot to the Rob Lowe podcast. So enough about Rob. When I think about your body of work, you play the most complex characters. And it's so funny. My kids were all in town visiting for the holidays. And we all got together one night and we're like, let's watch a movie. And I said, have you guys ever seen Girl Interrupted? And they had never seen Girl Interrupted. And so we all watched Girl Interrupted. And then in the middle of it, I go, wait a minute. Is that Elisabeth Moss? It's so funny that I've seen that movie 50 times. And I just in that moment realized that there was baby Elisabeth Moss in this movie.
Yeah.
And
I was like 15 or 16, I think.
That is such a complicated role you played.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I would begin to gather that kind of depth to play this very tortured character. Where does that come from?
Well, I don't know. I'm very bad at analyzing kind of acting. I'm very bad at talking about acting. I hate when actors sound actory, so I always have trouble kind of analyzing. It's so hard to not sound like an asshole, you know?
Right.
But I think the book was really helpful in that particular case. Have you read the book?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the book, they go into the character a little bit and explain kind of a little bit more about what happened to her, because she was a real person.
Right.
And so that was kind of all I needed. And the script was so great. And, you know, you had James Mangold. It was such an incredible experience because I was 15 or 16. So my mom was still with me going to set, you know, and we were shooting in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I was with all these movie stars, you know, it was Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie, who was fresh off of.
She was brilliant in that also.
Yes,
It's like the big
brilliant.
takeaways. You go, my gosh, Angelina Jolie really
Amazing.
kicked that character's ass.
Incredible. Like that cast was just like, and you had Clea Duvall and Brittany Murphy, and like it was just this amazing cast of women,
And Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes. Like Jared Leto is in it. So it was like being dropped into, you know, sort of like Wizard of Oz. It was like I was so just sort of awestruck by my surroundings, and working with Winona and Angelina, and they were so different, and they were both really interesting, and I remember the experience of making that movie so vividly. It was very, I mean, who gets that kind of experience? You know?
What I took away from that movie was how many cigarettes were smoked in that movie. They literally are smoking all the time. And you're like, are they really smoking? And how many cigarettes does it take?
Yeah.
And are they smoking the healthy cigarettes? You know, they're like, oh, these are healthy. And I'm like, oh, sure, it's a healthy cigarette.
No idea what's in them. Sure, it's healthy.
Right.
There were two kind of camps. Like there was the Winona Ryder camp and the Angelina Jolie camp.
You mean off camera?
Off camera, but based on what was on camera.
Right.
Like based on the script.
Right.
And I was in the Winona Ryder camp.
Right.
And
did you secretly want to be in the Angelina Jolie camp?
there were two kind of camps. Like there was the Winona Ryder camp and the Angelina Jolie camp.
You mean off camera?
Off camera, but based on what was on camera. And I was in the Winona Ryder camp, and the Angelina Jolie camp was really cool.
Right.
Like those were all like the really cool girls.
Did you secretly want to be in the Angelina Jolie camp?
I was so intimidated by the Angelina Jolie camp. I had no thoughts of ever being able to be in that camp. Like it was so cool. It was all the cool girls, and and I've spoken to Angelina since then, and she's lovely, and but at the time it was just incredibly intimidating.
Did you say to her, why did you not let me into your camp?
No, I've never brought it up. And I'm sure she would have no idea what I was talking about anyway, but I was definitely not cool enough to be in her camp.
It's funny when you see those characters, on the one hand, it's like a dream job, because talk about no muss, no fuss. You show up on that set as you are. Like, it doesn't look like anybody's in hair and makeup except for Brittany Murphy's character. And then you are in full prosthetics. So I'm thinking about the ease with which everybody else got to show up for work, and how many hours a day you had to probably sit in a makeup chair.
Yeah, it was about 3 hours every morning.
Oh my gosh.
Because it was a long time ago too. So, the process has kind of gotten better since then. This was like 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
No,
right.
Not quite that, but
at least
it's
20.
been a second.
Yeah,
it's been a second. So the process has gotten better since then, but it was, about 3 hours in the morning and at least an hour to take it off. And I would forget that I had it on. So, because you wouldn't take it off at lunch or anything,
right?
So I would forget that I had it on, and I would go with Winona, because we became kind of good friends. I would go with her to like the store or something, and I would forget that I had it on. And people on set thought that was actually what I looked like. Like the crew, because I wasn't famous, no one knew who I was. So the crew actually thought that, unfortunately, that had really happened to me. And it took a long time for them to realize that it was not real. They did such a good job.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What advice would you give your younger self looking back now?
I would encourage myself to enjoy the experiences that I'm having. Like even when we're talking about Girl Interrupted, and I had a great time, but I was nervous and I was intimidated by these movie stars and all of that. And so I would encourage myself to enjoy the moment.
Do you look out for that when you're on set with like an actor that's clearly nervous around you, starstruck around you?
Totally,
Yeah.
for sure. Because I remember what it was like, especially with kids or with younger actors, like absolutely. Because I remember exactly what it's like and how you're trying to act like an adult, but you don't feel like an adult because you're a kid. But you are more mature than you normal kids. But I'm very protective of younger people on set because I know how they feel, but also because West Wing taught me how to act on set because those actors were so professional and so kind.
Yeah.
And Martin Sheen is like the gold standard for how you're supposed to act on set. And he was always so kind to everyone. The guy who was opening the door in the scene, he knew his name. And that to me is something that I've always tried to emulate as much as possible.
Martin Sheen is, for our listeners, a lovely human being. He really is. He is special. Yeah.
He's a special human. He really is.
Do you have a favorite role that you played? Is there one character that you're like, if I could play this woman for the rest of my life, I'd be happy?
No, I can't. There really isn't. I think I'd be miserable playing one character for the rest of my life. And second of all, I love them for different reasons. And there's like Peggy is like somebody that is a character that is very, very dear to my heart. Obviously, she's also a huge part of my life because we did that show for 9 years. But I love Imogen, the one in the FX show, The Veil. Like it kind of tends to be the last one I played.
Right.
That's my favorite.
Freshest in your mind.
Yeah. So that's always the one that I'm like, that's the one that I love the most.
Yeah.
I like them all for different reasons, I think that some are easier than others. That's for sure. I love playing June. June's very close to me. So maybe that just means I'm lazy and it's easier.
No, but I would think that June would be very difficult to play. I mean, it's a
little intense.
It's grueling. It's grueling. But
it's a little intense.
Maybe you like that.
It's not like that when you shoot it, is the thing. So your experience of watching it, the audience's experience of watching it is so intense. Of course it is. It's supposed to be. It's written that way. It's supposed to be intense. It's not like that when we shoot it. You know how it is. It's like you can't do that for 14 hours a day and you can't sustain that for 6, 7, 8 months, that level of intensity. And there's 150 people on the crew who are not experiencing that level of intensity and are wondering when we're going to lunch and are wondering when we're going home.
Right,
so it's not, how it is. It's just not that intense when you're shooting it. But I understand the experience. Whenever anyone says to me, I had trouble. I couldn't watch the last episode. That season was so hard. I never blame them. I'm always like, I totally get it.
We were like, we would come into work and we're like, it's happening. I'm like, did y'all see the documentary last night's documentary episode? Because we truly were like, I don't know why people are calling this a TV show. They're just filming a documentary. We're just watching it unfold.
Yeah, I know. And I get why it's hard for people to watch. And I don't blame them. I prefer watching comedy myself. So I get it.
So when do you start filming the last season?
This summer. We're prepping it. Yeah. We're prepping it now. And we start shooting this summer.
How your agent must be so busy balancing your schedule. Is he talking to your obstetrician also to see like when is that happening?
Practically, yeah. It's, it all goes very hand in hand at a certain point.
So you're wrapped on The Veil. The Veil is shot. It's in the can.
Yeah, we finished last summer and we've actually been in post for a year. So we're almost done in post on that. We're finishing up the last episodes.
So tell our listeners about this role because it's very physical. Do you have a British accent?
I do.
Was that
I
hard to
do.
do?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Very tough. Yeah. Yeah. Very hard. I don't, maybe there are actors that find accents easy. I don't. I like doing them, but they're difficult and I'm a perfectionist. So they have to be perfect. And I practiced it for about 6 months before we even started shooting.
Did you hire a coach or something?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had
yeah.
one of the best dialect coaches in the world. Her name is Liz Himmelstein, and she's the one that everyone works
Everybody
with.
uses.
Yes. Like she's the one.
I say one thing with a British accent.
Which is?
I clasp my hands and I say, figgy pudding.
So basically, the only thing you'll be doing is a Christmas Carol.
I don't even say, not even a Christmas Carol. I can just say, figgy pudding. And the more I say it, the less British it sounds. It's really tragic.
The more demented it sounds.
It's demented.
It's a crazy physical role too. You're like kicking ass.
Yeah, I did a lot of stunts, a lot of fights, a lot of training. And I'm not a particularly physical person, even though I have the ballet background.
Fighting is different.
It's different. But I'm also like, I'm not outdoorsy. I don't do that kind of thing. I don't like the gym. So this is, I have to have a purpose in order to do something. Right. So we had 3 big fights I had to learn, and we just kept practicing and practicing and practicing all the time. It was very, very physical. Now looking back, because we're still in post on this show, I look at the show sometimes and, I'm my body's very different right now. Right. And my level of physicality is very, very different. Getting in and out of bed is a fight scene in itself.
Yes. Putting on sneakers and tying your shoelaces. I would lose consciousness.
Yeah, I have to take a break. It's like one sock and then there's a good break and then there's the other sock.
Of course.
But I watch this show and I see myself running around and up and down stairs and in heels doing fights, and I'm just so impressed.
Right, amazing.
It's incredible.
So were you shooting anything while pregnant?
Well, I did a movie actually, yeah. Just recently I did a film with Max Minghella, who is on Handmaid's Tale with me. Yeah, and he directed a film that we just did together called Shell, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do because of the pregnancy, but he changed my mind. We rewrote a little something here and there and embraced it and went with it. So I actually
you play
did that.
a pregnant person.
I do not, actually.
You do not?
No.
Okay.
The storyline, it lends itself to me being able to embrace the way my body looked and kind of not hide it. That was the first month of shooting. The second month of shooting, it was all here up.
Right, got it. Yeah.
Bury it alive.
Yeah.
Like
when I was pregnant, I was on a soap opera. My character wasn't pregnant. So they started hiding my pregnancy first with furniture.
Yeah.
And then they would shoot me from like here up.
Yeah.
And then they buried me alive in a cave.
That's genius. Yeah, there was definitely, we were fine for a while, and then there was definitely came a point when it was like, oh yeah, we're definitely at a close up for this. We're at a close up for the rest of the movie. There's no way we can. There was a lot of sitting behind counters.
Yeah, sitting behind every counter, opening a door and getting directly into a car.
Exactly.
So Jan was telling me, and I do this a lot. I play music that inspires me or puts me in some sort of headspace. And Jan was telling me that you do that for roles. And I'm curious what your playlists are for your various roles.
Yeah, that's very true. I listen to a lot of music for every project. I make at least one playlist. They're kind of not so much based on, it's not so much like, oh, this is what my character would listen to, or, this is 60s music for Mad Men or something like that. It's more cinematic music. It's a lot of score, a lot of composers, a lot of soundtrack. It's a lot of like just music that sets a tone, music that sets a mood and gets me into a headspace. And sometimes it's like there's a scene I need to do and I need to be inspired and I need to be pumped up and it's 5 a.m. and I'm tired and I don't want to do it. And so sometimes it's Taylor Swift or it's Beyonce or it's something that like just is going to get me going and get me willing to do whatever it is I have to do. And then sometimes it's music that I think would be good for the show.
Yeah.
So it'll be a track that I actually end up putting in the show. So it depends on what I need. It depends on what is required of the moment or the day. But I almost constantly have AirPods changed my life.
Yes.
I mean, that was just a game changer.
Game changer.
And when you're working, to not have the wire being like all caught up
know.
in your costume and having to take, but the bad part about AirPods is how easily you forget that they're in.
Yes, right.
And the amount of shots we have had to, in post-production, take out my AirPod.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
You would think
I forget.
somebody on set might be
That's what I say.
Somebody would notice that.
Somebody might
But
say,
if the hair is covering it, I get it. I mean, then you're.
I got 3 jobs. Like somebody should be
yeah,
looking
exactly.
at the AirPod.
My mind is elsewhere. My character is here. She's not
Yeah.
listening to AirPods.
And there's no, like in Handmaids, there's no reason why June would have an AirPod, So it's not something that you can be like, oh, the character has an AirPod.
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to give you a playlist. I know you know
I
John
love that.
Williams, of course.
Yes, of
Brilliant
course.
composer. He scored the Olympics. The soundtrack to the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
That is the best soundtrack.
Oh, I
it
bet.
puts you in a mood to do everything all the time.
That makes total sense to me, Kelly, that I would totally listen to that.
I think there's one called like The Russians Take the Field. And it's literally, you're
Perfect.
like, oh, yeah.
I am going to go to the gym today.
Gosh, I am going.
I'm going to go to that Pilates class.
Yes.
That is right up my alley.
Is there a dream role? Like if you could play any character? Is there a dream role?
I would love to play, my roles tend to be on the more serious side and on the more dramatic side, which I love because I love doing that. But no, I would love to do something that was a little bit broader and more comedic. And I got to do a little bit of this in this Jordan Peele movie called Us, where I got to play kind of like a housewifey sort of more Beverly Hills, that kind of that woman, who has had a little work done and is proud of it.
That movie scared the shit out of me. It really, those Jordan Peele movies, I mean, I go happily into them knowing that I'm going to have nightmares.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about it for the next 6 to 8 weeks. I'm going to be afraid to walk into a dark room. But I go in, I sign up for it. Here I go.
Mm-hmm. But there are going to be images and moments that you will not be able to get out of your head. In Get Out, when he's standing outside and the guy comes running towards him, like that's a moment that still gives me shivers, a visual image that I will never forget. I mean, the man is a genius. Have you spoken to him? I'm sure.
I've not spoken to him. No. I have not spoken to him. I would love to speak to him.
He's so lovely.
You should put in a word for this here podcast.
I will.
Tell him how easy it is to do this here podcast.
I will tell him how easy and lovely it all is. He's so funny, obviously, and he's so lovely. And it always fascinates me when you see these people like him or Vince Gilligan, who did Breaking Bad, or I was just talking to somebody about David Lynch, who's just like a lovely Midwestern guy. And then these things come out of them and you're just like,
where does that come from?
Where is this darkness coming from? It's incredible.
It's really something.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you some advice questions and then I promise I'll let you go because I know you probably have to pee by now. Right?
Well, yeah, I had to pee like 30 minutes ago.
I mean, do you want to take a break? You can.
No, I'll let you know when it gets bad.
What's the best advice somebody has given you, life-wise or career-wise?
Ooh, I think probably treat others the way you would want to be treated.
So simple. It's so simple, right?
So simple. It's
Yet so
simple.
many people have a hard time doing that.
Yet So many people seem to forget so easily
Yep.
that this golden rule. It just transcends, I think, so many things, and it just is something that, of course, you have to constantly remind yourself. Nobody's you don't wake up in the morning and are perfect at it, but I think it's, something that definitely is very important.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there anybody in your career who told you you couldn't do something?
Ooh, yeah. One that occurs to me is the first play I did in New York, I did when I was 17 or 18. And I was told that I couldn't audition for it because I was too young or too old or something. I was too young, maybe. And I was told that they wanted to look at Anna Paquin for the role.
Mm-hmm.
And Anna Paquin and I had the same birthday, July 24th, 1982. So I said, if you're looking at Anna Paquin, then I am not too young for this role. Right. And I got myself an audition in New York. And that was the play that got me to move to New York. And I've lived in New York for, 20 years now. So it started a whole thing.
And Anna Paquin has never spoken to Elisabeth Moss since. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's a lie. That's a lie, listeners. Just me joking.
Anna Paquin did just fine.
She did. She landed on her feet. She landed on her feet.
She was all right.
We talk about imposter syndrome a lot on this show. Did you ever go into a situation where you're like, I can't do this, or they're going to figure out I can't do this?
Sure, totally. More when I was younger than now, I suppose. But, even on something like The Veil, though, having to do a British accent and play a spy and do all these stunts and things that I've never done before, there's definitely moments of doubt and hesitation. And I better really put in the work. I better train and I better practice, or they're gonna know that I can't do it. So yeah, for sure. But definitely more when I was younger, and I truly was more intimidated by older people that I was working with, because I was always the youngest one. Like I was always the young one. I didn't work with people my own age.
Right.
Ever. Like I was always working with people that were older than me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for sure. I don't know if you ever really get over that.
I have what Mark likes to call asshole syndrome. I don't have imposter syndrome. So I think that I can do everything. And then, like, I'm not kidding. We'll watch the Winter Olympics, and I start moving furniture in the living room, and he's like, what are you doing? And I go, I'm going to figure skate. He's like, stop it. I watched it. I got it.
I watched it. I saw the one competition, and I know what I'm doing.
Now I know I can compete. Yeah. So I have the opposite of that. I have asshole syndrome.
I feel like I land somewhere in the middle where I think I can do the things that I know how to do. And I don't think I could do the things that I don't know how to do.
That sounds healthy and normal. That sounds like you're healthy and normal. You're not clinical like I am.
I think it's fantastic you're confident, though. I think it's wonderful. How is the figure skating going? Is it taking off?
This is going to be I think the next Olympics, I'm definitely going to be in.
You're in.
Well, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. This was so fun. And remember, everyone, the new episodes of FX's The Veil airs Tuesday exclusively on Hulu. And I cannot wait to meet that lucky new baby of yours when he or she arrives.
Thank you.
Very happy for you. And if you need anything, I'm your girl.
I love that.
I'm not a doctor, but I practically am. I think I know how to deliver a baby.
A birthing doula.
Yes, I could be your doula.
You're going to be my first call.
Yes, I'm your girl anytime. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's always great to see you. Thanks,
Elisabeth
guys.
Moss, everybody.
She's like a real.
She's a real star and a real person.
Delightful.
Like you know what? She reminds me of British actors. So many of the British actors that we interview just treat it like it's a job. They don't like to talk about the process, or they're like, oh, I don't know how to talk about this. I just go to work and I do my job. She reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, everybody. Be sure to tell your friends about us. Listen to how this is written.
Fucked up.
No, I'm gonna read it as it's wrote. Well, that's it! Exclamation point. Be sure to tell your friends about us! Exclamation point. Bye, everyone! Exclamation point. Can't wait to talk off camera next week. Ellipses. Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions with help from Goat Rodeo. Our theme song is Follow Me from APM Music. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Chalet, Devin Schneider, Michael Halpern, Jacob Small, Roz Therian, Seth Gronquist, and Julia Desch. From Goat Rodeo, our team is Kara Schillen, Megan Nadolski, Max Johnston, Isabel Kirby McGowan, and Rebecca Seidel. Additional sound design by Terrence Bernardo. This show is powered by Stitcher.